Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today I'll be telling you guys why you shouldn't upgrade a level entry road bike, especially if you're using it for racing. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. If this is your first time landing on the channel, I just want to say hello. I highly suggest you like the video and subscribe to the channel because the growth of this channel can only be done with viewers like you. So you supporting me will just help me produce better content like the video you're watching right now. It really shows that everyone that does end up on my videos that ends up subscribing and supporting the channel grow by liking the videos. The content is only getting better and it really helps the viewing experience for you as the viewer and just helps me putting out more content. So always I'm very appreciative of everyone that's watching, that's helping me actually make this YouTube channel successful and just better overall content. So I just want to give a big thank you. And if this is your first time, I suggest you stay for the long ride because the content and the overall experience you're going to get on this channel is by far nothing else on YouTube really. So enough with the chit chat. You clicked on this video because you want to know why you shouldn't upgrade level entry road bike / race bike, and I'm here to explain it. So I personally ride a Giant race bike, so I'm going to use Giant as the bike brand that we're going to use for this model to really explain the concept, but this really applies to every company such as Specialized, Cannondale, Trek. So just this is more of the model, more of the understanding of why you shouldn't upgrade or why it's not even worth your time or money. So we're looking at a level entry road bike, which is something that I would still race with. So I actually have this version that we're looking at right now on rim brakes, but this is a disc brake because disc is popular in 2020. So this is a TCR Advanced 2 Disc Pro Compact, and it's going for $23.50. Now what you get on it is a full carbon fiber frame and fork. You're getting a full 105 hydraulic made by Shimano. The only thing that's not 105 is the crankset. And you're getting tubeless tires, but those are aluminum rims. So for a race bike, for a level entry race bike at low categories, this is amazing. This will, as long as your fitness is there, you should be in top contention. You're not going to really lose in terms of performance. Now, you start winning some races and you're thinking, hey, you know what? I'm upgraded into Cat 3, almost to the elite, but let's say Cat 3. And now you're trying to figure out, what do I upgrade on my bike next? And usually, you're going to want to upgrade your wheels. You might want to get a lighter stem. You might want to get a better saddle. There's some tweaks that you might want to actually put on your bike. But in terms of racing, there's two things that you're most likely going to upgrade as soon as you get out of the lowest category, which is usually category 4. So that's going to be a power meter and a carbon wheel set. So usually I always suggest to people, before you even spend a lot of money on, a difference of equipments, from a variety of different equipments that you could potentially buy with your money right off the gun, like right from the start of your cycling career, especially if you're getting into racing, you should buy a power meter. So that should be one of the first investments. But then again, I started racing without a power meter. Silly decision, but not the end of the world. Now, as soon as you start, I usually suggest to people, if you want to surpass the lowest category in terms of racing or just becoming a better rider right off the start, if you train with power within the first season, you'll be extremely well off. Now, myself, I didn't do that. Silly mistake. I just rode a lot. But then again, the thing that you learn, and I'll touch up on this on my channel. So that's why I always suggest you guys, like the video, subscribe, because, the content is only going to help you hopefully become a better rider as well from things that I've learned personally. So, I usually just rode a lot, but just because you ride a lot doesn't mean you actually become stronger, because the only time you really become stronger is with intensity, right? And intensity based on duration. So if I would have had a power meter from the start, I would have done a lot better. So, anyways, if you guys do ride quite significantly a lot and, do some, fast group rides, you won't really need a power meter to get out of the lowest categories, but it definitely will speed up that process. Now, as soon as you're out of that category and you start racing Cat 3, if you're not training with power, most likely you're going to get dropped, because if you don't have a way to gauge, you could say heart rate, yeah, that's okay, but power is obviously the best. Everyone's training with power. So that's one thing you don't get on a beginner bike or a level entry, not even a beginner bike, a level entry race bike / road bike. So you don't get a power meter, and that's probably the biggest thing that you would want to get off the bat. And the second thing is that you'd probably want to upgrade to carbon rims. Now, I've touched up on this subject on my channel before, aluminum rims versus carbon rims. Now, in terms of just riding, I don't think it makes a significant difference in terms of overall experience, right? So I've gone on rides yesterday, best weather in Canada so far, and I rode for 100 kilometers, and I had a really good time on my training rims. They're aluminum, not the end of the world, right? However, I do know for racing and for where every second counts, and even at my category where it's not like the most important, but even, I'm not gonna lie, in fast group rides and training rides, having carbon rims, it does feel nicer. I'm not gonna pretend, but it doesn't hinder performance. But in terms of upgrading, without going on a super long rant, a power meter and carbon rims are the most important things that you guys are most likely going to want to upgrade on your bike. But this is where I don't suggest it, right? So you've already invested $23.50 USD into your first beginner race bike / road bike. Now, if we're looking at just upgrading to a dual-sided power meter, and let's keep it with a 105, in USD, this is $599, so 600 USD to get a dual-sided power meter. So if you're looking at $600, that's the wrong bike. You're looking at this bike, so you're roughly anywhere now to like $2,000, almost $3,000 after you take into consideration tax. So right now you're at $3,000 for a dual-sided power meter. Now I would say that's probably the best. That's the most I would potentially upgrade on a very beginner bike. But then again, the one thing that a lot of people have a hard time understanding is the concept of when you outgrow something to some degree, instead of like trying to upgrade it, this is where my thought process is, and I learned this the hard ways, is that it's better to sell it, lose a little bit, but recuperate that loss and invest into something that kind of takes off everything and has a better value. So in terms of a dual-sided power meter, we're already at $3,000 now for this bike that has a dual-sided power meter with the 105 crank with the power meter. And then let's say you want to add carbon rims to this bike as well, because then at that point it's basically, I would say, it's race ready. Even though it's not a Tegra group set, I race with the 105, it's doable. Like I said, the most important things for racing are probably the dual-sided power meter and the carbon rims. And if we use Giants rims as an example, as a baseline, you're looking at, for each rim, let's say give or take $1,000. So for a decent wheel set, you're looking at $2,000. So right there with the dual-sided power meter, it's $3,000 USD. And with the additional rims, you're looking at $5,000 USD. Now, a lot of people don't understand that from the start, because you usually will upgrade. So after one season, you ride the bike, you bought the bike, so $23.50, and then you ride it for a season, you start winning some races, or you start doing well in some races, and then the next season you buy a power meter. So then you don't really think of it as $3,000 USD. You think of it, oh, I just spent $1,000 this season on the power meter. So, and then the next season you follow up, or maybe halfway through that season you buy the wheels. So at the end you accumulated $5,000 USD, but it didn't feel like $5,000. And I can understand that, different process in terms of where you are on your progression as a cyclist, and maybe budget and all that stuff. You can space out the money rather than have that bulk sum at the beginning. But what I think is way better is selling this bike. So selling your bike once you decide you want a power meter, and upgrading to a good value race bike, which in my opinion, I made a video on my channel, is the TCR Advanced Pro 1 disc, which retails for $4,300. So you're saving roughly $700 when trying to upgrade this, right? So you're getting a dual-sided power meter, and this is where I feel like it's very worth it. Now, I don't want to take too much time going into the specs, but Ultegra, I think, is roughly $400, $500 more expensive than 105. Correct me if I'm wrong, but right there you get that added benefit, improvement. You get a dual-sided power meter and you get carbon rims. So you're getting 3 upgrades and you're still saving $700. And if we can factor in the fact that this is 105 and this would be Ultegra, you're roughly saving $1,000, which I think is very significant, because $1,000 can go a long way in terms of improving other aspects of your cycling, equipment, in terms of maybe getting a trainer during the winter. So that money can be used very efficiently if you can plan ahead. And that's where it brings me to this point in the video, without taking too much of your time, is that my whole point of this channel is to share what I've learned from my experiences, and then share that with you so you don't make the same mistake. So just a quick summary of what I did was, I had an aluminum bike, raced it, started doing pretty good, so I thought it'd be smarter to actually buy a carbon frame for, I think it was like $700, $800. It was a Cervelo. Then I put the aluminum parts, group set on the carbon frame, rode that. But then I had to get it bike fitted. I had to get it built up, and it ended up, I probably saved about, I didn't put a power meter on it, so yet again, worse value, but then again, power meters weren't that cheap back then. It didn't come stock on bikes at that time. But I ended up probably saving around $200, $300, but I had the hassle of having to get the bike built, having to get like everything, make sure everything was like coherently done properly, which I don't suggest. It's so much easier, especially with the value you get with Giant, is that for $4,300, you literally walk in and you walk out with a full, ready to go race bike. So from my experience, guys, you have to have that foresight. And I'm not saying from the beginning. So a lot of times you'd have people that would come in and say, I want to get into racing, or I want to get into like group rides. I want to become a strong cyclist, but I don't know if cycling is like right for me. But then again, at the same time, in terms of taking it to the extreme of being, training and doing that stuff, like, diet, exercise, like to the point where like, they say like, I'm a cyclist, I race competitively. But at the same time, they don't want to do it for leisure. So it's kind of like in that in-between stage where they definitely want to spend around 2,000 USD, and nothing cheaper than that, because then definitely you can't really do anything significantly if you do get better. So usually I would always steer people to like the TCR Advance 2 around this price range, because it allows you to grow rapidly in terms of what's doable on the bike, right? So it's not an aluminum bike, it's not like Tiago components, it's not cheaper components, it's good components. But at the same time, what I always remind people is that, this is a good bike, because if you don't get into top tier racing or mid tier racing, you don't lose that much in terms of, you didn't buy a $4,300 USD bike and you don't use a power meter, you don't care about the rims, and you don't really get the benefit of the Ultegra group set and all that stuff. So for this price range, even if you don't, get that big into racing, you still have a really good road bike just to ride and enjoy. Where, some people think they think in the short term they're saving money by upgrading their bike, but actually in the long term you end up saving more. And I know this concept might be familiar to some people. I thought I knew it, but obviously didn't, because I made some poor decisions with when I built my bikes in the past. So I just want to make this video is just, guys, if you do have a beginner road bike right now and you're getting into racing, I know the racing season is kind of on hold right now, but really figure out what you need. You most likely, if you're going to Cat 3 mid-tier racing, or if you want to improve faster, say you're even in a lower category but you want to improve faster, my best recommendation is ride the heck out of your bike, ride it. If you have a heart rate strap, use it. You figure out the zones. I'm going to make a video on that eventually. And just ride your bike. And then when you start doing decently in those categories, figure out, how much you're going to lose with selling the bike, but you're going to have to take somewhat of a loss, and then recuperate that with buying the new bike. And in the long term, you would have saved money. So I know it's a hard concept. Not everyone is fortunate in that position. Sometimes, if you already bought the bike for $2,350 and you can buy $600 and have a dual side power meter, and you don't really care about the rims, then I can justify that, because it'd be like, that's a lot easier than going through the hassle of selling the bike and then buying the bike and you're out of a bike. So I understand there's situations, but what I like to do is kind of have the foresight of at least a season or two down the road. Then again, it can all change. I didn't think I'd be wanting to race gravel a season ago, so things do change. But I just want you guys to be a little bit more conscious of how to plan forward in terms of racing and equipment. So just remember, if you're ever planning on upgrading your current bike, usually, if we're talking about race bike in terms of power meter and carbon rims, you're better off buying brand new, already pre-packaged bike rather than upgrade on your current bike. And that's something that I have on my TCR Advance 2. I have a 105 group set. I would love to get like Ultegra Di2 and have a power meter, but I already know that most likely, unless I can find a really good deal, I'm better off just selling the bike, taking a little bit of a loss, and buying a new Giant or whatever brand I decide to go in the future, and just buy a brand new bike that has everything that I want on it already. Then again, I'm putting a power meter on this one because I already have a power meter laying around, but if I didn't, it would be a hard justification, right? So it's very situational. I just wanted to make this video because I want you guys to remember, if you're buying a brand new bike with all the components that you want, you'll save money in the long run. In the short term, you might think you're saving money, but you're actually not. So that's about it. If you guys do like the video, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. More content coming down. 2 weeks roughly of cold weather in Canada, and then it's basically all outdoor riding. I had a really good ride yesterday, so I'm very excited, very motivated to make some outdoor content, especially if you guys like seeing some vlog stuff, or just my experience riding. You'll like the content. It's coming. I also am going to do a lot of gravel this summer, so stay tuned for that. I know a lot of people like that whole exploration thing. That's what got me back into cycling, is the fact that, you know, just getting on your bike, sometimes not even looking at the speed, not looking at the power, just going for a long 150, 200 kilometer ride and just enjoying every second of it. So I really want to bring that content. I will be linking my Strava and Instagram in the description, so if you guys do want to follow that, feel free. It's a good source of inspiration, as I follow other cyclists that give me a source of inspiration. So if I can inspire some of you guys to get on your bike and just keep pedaling, that's another goal of this channel. So other than that, I hope you did enjoy it, and until the next one, keep pedaling.